All right. Hello, everybody. This is Nik and Adinah Johnson.
Hello.
Hello, ma'am. We are in the midst of a series, and that series is Love Busters. And that series is based upon the workbook that comes from the actual book Love Busters, and also the His Needs, Her Needs book. And so in our last video, we discussed what a Love Buster is and really the impact that it can have on your relationship, and why we should try to avoid implementing these love busters within our relationships. So today we're going to talk about the first love buster. And that first love buster is selfish demands.
Yep.
Okay. So with selfish demands, I'm going to kind of give the context around it as it comes from the workbook. And then we'll go into a larger discussion about it. And we'll also talk about how we can actually implement certain strategies and approaches to try to rid our relationships of selfish demands if you have them. So selfish demands are, commanding the other to do something with implied threat of punishment if he or she refuses. If selfish demands occur, the husband and wife will follow a course of action that identifies selfish demands, investigate their cause, keep a record of their occurrences, and replace them with thoughtful requests. So when you hear that kind of, more or less a definition around a selfish demand and the actions you need to take to rid those, what crosses your mind, honey?
I just think about, because if you think about it, we all have some selfishness to us. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to marriage, it's so important that we are selfless in everything that we do in our marriage, because everything we do affects us, and everything we do has a part to do with us. So it's so important that we try not to put selfish demands onto our partner. And the thing is too, I don't want to go too deep into it, but if you go deep, if you put selfish demands on your partner, then you're not going to be happy when you get what you're demanding.
Okay.
Because when you do, it's more like, well, darn, I had to tell you. You didn't do it on your own. So it's like a catch-22 for your partner, because you think you want the selfish demand, or you want to imply threats. I mean, like the example that we talked about before as far as anniversary.
Yeah, it's like if you're a husband or a wife who might not necessarily remember anniversaries, and you might struggle every year, and then, that mate who actually does find them important or more important than you may come to you and give you an ultimatum. Say, hey, you know what? Come empty-handed, come this 25th of March and see what happens. No games.
I'm like, oh, what's going to happen? And that's how most people would take it. It's like, oh, you threatening me?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see. Let's go. Let's dig our heels in. Many times because most people do not like threats, then it just becomes a power struggle.
Yeah, and it's almost like you said, if you ultimately get it, you don't feel fulfilled, because when March 25th rolls around and you get that gift or whatever that you wanted, some people will say, hey, you know what, only reason I got it is because I told him or told her that I wanted it. And it's almost like you didn't get it because at that particular point, you only did it because I told you.
It cheapens the gift.
Yeah, but in hindsight, if you tell me that you want me to give you something, and I give it to you, why are you mad?
Because that's not how they wanted it. And that's the thing. When we talk about, going to the other part where it says, replace them with thoughtful requests. Mm-hmm. That reminds me of the complaint with the request for change that we talked about in the Emotional Jug series that we did. Whereas because let me just give an example. You just said, if you don't do that, find out what happens. Let's do it a different way. Let's say, babe, our anniversary is coming up March 25th. It doesn't change. Mm-hmm. And, would it be possible that we can do something that is very meaningful to our relationship? And that put the onus on him, because what is meaningful to him may not be meaningful to me. Mm-hmm. For him, it could be meaningful for him to write a letter straight off his hand, off a scratch piece of paper, and that might not be meaningful to me. So it's important for us to explain what we are actually looking for and what we want.
Yeah.
You know, I know once I was like, I never had a birthday party. You never threw me a birthday party. And then when it came time for you to throw a birthday party, I was like, I don't really want a birthday party.
Yeah, I remember that.
You know, I think I enjoyed
that birthday party. The last of the hair I had. That's the last time I was able to get a tape up was
for the birthday party. I know. And so I don't know. So it cheapens the gift. It makes it where you really don't want it. And I think that goes for everybody. Mm-hmm. So it's important not to do selfish demands on your partner.
Yeah, I think also one of the things we have to do is, as we go through these love busters, it's not about what your spouse is or is not doing. Mm-hmm. This is more of an internal activity. Okay, what things am I doing in regards to my spouse? How am I hurting my spouse? Because we already talked about love busters, and basically it erodes at your relationship, you know, and selfish demands really does that. You might say, okay, well, how do I know if it's a selfish demand? Two ways. First of all, your spouse or your mate may tell you, you know what? I don't think what you're doing right now. And they might be to the point where they won't just outright say it's selfish. They might say, you know what? I don't think that's, you know, what's best for us as a family or as a couple. But also, you may realize it at some point, and you may realize that, you know what, ultimately what you want to do is all about you, and you're not taking everyone else into consideration. Okay? Or
that person could come to you and say, you know, I really don't feel comfortable with the way you requested that, or, you know, I don't feel comfortable in, and many times they don't even have to tell you that they don't feel comfortable. You can pick up on their body language and say, wait a minute.
Bunny?
But your body language, I'm sorry. Okay. I said that too fast. I'm talking too fast.
Your bunny language?
Your bunny language. That's something new. Ooh. We like that. No. Yes. So bad. Okay. So it's important that you are a student of your partner's environment and understand how they respond. If they're not responding positively, then there may be a problem. And you have to ask yourself too, why am I requesting this certain thing? Is it selfish of me to request this of my partner? You know, oftentimes I could say, well, for me, the anniversary is very important, so it should be important to you also. But that's also selfish demands. That's selfish of me to think that it's important to you just because it's important to me, when in essence, it should be important to you because it's important to me. Mm. However, I think it's still selfish to just impose that upon another person.
Yeah, but I think it's also important for me to know that's important for you. You may have to tell me, you know, because to me, some people be like, you know what, birthdays, anniversaries, it's just all another day. And some people really do feel that way. But if you're with someone who does not feel that way, first of all, in one or two things, hopefully they will communicate that to you. Or you need to tell them, like, you know, yeah, I'm not that big on them. And in turn, hopefully they'll tell them, and out of love for them, you'll actually make it a deal at least, you know, when it comes to them.
Or you have some people that say, oh, it's not a big deal, but in actuality, it is a big deal. Mm. So that's also
yes,
playing
that's another
games.
Video, playing games. Yeah, you know, it's all about, once again, that transparency that we talk about, that you have to have in your relationship. If I say it's a big deal, you don't need to say it ain't a big deal just to try to match up with me.
Right.
You need to have the freedom to be like, nah, okay, well, I care. And it's okay that you care. You know, it's extremely important. So one of the things that you want to keep in mind here is that, okay, understanding where you are. And like I said, this is more internal about you, how you need to keep a record of their occurrence. So here, we don't want to necessarily say that you're keeping score of it. This is all about you. All right, when did I make the selfish demand? What space was I in? You know, it's a possibility that you could have been just in a situation that was almost an emotional trigger for you, or emotional allergy for you. And you notice that whenever you're in this situation, you find yourself really going to almost this self-preservation mode, and it's all about you. You know, say, for instance, if you've had, this just jumped in my head. Say, for instance, you have had a bad instance of maybe being at a particular person's home, and your spouse may always want to go there, and you be like, you know what, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. And you find yourself like, you know what, I don't want to do this. I want to go here. and you hear that I, which is typically indicative of being selfish, you realize that, okay, every time that, my mate mentions that they want to go here or they want to do this, I start to make demands about what I don't want to do. Mm-hmm. Maybe I need to realize, okay, well, you know what? It's that every time I go to this place or every time I go to this event, I have a bad experience. So I need to tell this person, hey, you know what? I don't like going over there. This is what happens.
Yeah.
And I find myself being in that selfish space because I'm going to a place of self-preservation.
Yeah. And with that type of example, it's so important that we're honest with our feelings and we're honest with our spouse and let them know what is happening, because they don't know unless we tell them. If, the wife or the husband or somebody is snarky, or I don't feel welcome at a certain place that we go, I understand you enjoy it, but I don't feel welcome, or it's not comfortable. It's uncomfortable for me. So why don't you go without me, or why don't we go somewhere else together?
Yeah, that's true. Instead of you going and it going downhill. It's almost like if you are emotionally mature enough to know that every time you go to this place, especially a lot of young couples struggle with this, especially with like going to in-laws' house or whatever, and it's some type of bad experience for them, and they find themselves, okay, they really don't want to go, but they feel like they can't tell their spouse that they don't want to go. So they go. And when they go, everybody's asking, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you? And then like your spouse picks up that there's something wrong with you. Then they ask you what's wrong with you. You say it ain't nothing wrong with me. And then it's a whole big blow up, and it's horrible. Where really at the beginning of it, at some point, if someone could have been like, you know what? I don't have the best experiences when I go here. And then having that dialogue about, okay, well, I'll just go by myself, or we'll go together, or is there a particular situation that happens, or let me know, or even at the house if we're there, give me a safe word where if you're starting to feel like, somebody's kind of, giving you a bad vibe or doing something to you, that way I'll know to be aware that I can come either sit close to you or I'll make sure not to leave you not unattended. Sound like a purse.
Yeah. Watch that purse.
Yeah, I'll make sure not to leave you.
Watch that white purse.
Yeah, I'll make sure not to leave you there because, sometimes, you can take your spouse somewhere and they might not know anybody there and you just up and leave them. You know everybody else, they're just kind of sitting there. So just certain things that you could be mindful of.
And sometimes people are on their best behavior or they act differently when your spouse is there.
Yeah.
So you just have to be honest with yourself if you're uncomfortable. We didn't went on a whole rabbit hole with this one.
No, but it falls around selfish demand.
It does. So you have to just be honest with yourself, your feelings, and your emotions. And even if it takes writing them down to understand what the issue is, because oftentimes we can't process the issue. Or, and sometimes as women, we can talk to our girlfriends and process the issue just perfectly. Maybe record yourself talking about it or just process it and say, man, that's what it is. That's the problem. This is why I feel uncomfortable doing X, Y, Z, or I'm not, I don't want to do certain things.
Yeah, that's true. So just keeping in mind, as we're talking about selfish demands, remember, you can make requests in a thoughtful way. Even if you're making selfish demands right now, you just need to make sure to repackage it, make sure that you are having the best intent and that the goal is to get the need met without hurting your mate or your spouse. Mm-hmm. So that's what we have for selfish demands. Thank you all so much. Like, share, subscribe. Anything else you need to say before we sign out?
That's it.
All right. So this is Nik and Adinah Johnson. Thank you so much for being here. Take care of yourself. Keep loving one another.